Muy buenas a todos chicos, ¿qué tal estáis? Bienvenidos por fin a un nuevo videazo de Código Lyoko. Y es que hoy chicos iros poniendo cómodos y cómodas porque vamos a reaccionar todos juntos a un gran videazo sobre una pregunta súper interesante. ¿Es Código Lyoko mejor que Ladybug? Esa es la pregunta del vídeo, así que ya os quiero ver respondiendo en los comentarios. ¿Es Código Lyoko mejor que Ladybug? Dicho esto, me gustaría felicitar a una gran suscriptora que está ahí apoyándome a muerte, ya sea Código Lyoko, Sendokai, lo que sea, ahí apoyando fuertemente la comunidad, como es Alejandra. Muchísimas felicidades por tu cumpleaños. Este vídeo lo estarás viendo un día después. Su cumple fue ayer, martes 13. Espero que te lo hayas pasado muy bien en tu día. Vais a tener el canal y el vídeo original del creadora de este vídeo en la descripción. Este vídeo dura unos 20 minutos. No preocuparse porque pondré las mejores partes. Chicos, os dejo por aquí el horario de la semana. Esta semana completa de Código Lyoko. Vais a tener muchas cosillas, en especial este fin de semana, maratón de Código Lyoko Evolution. Personalmente, como fan, no haría esta maratón, pero como soy pues un Lyokotuber, un youtuber de Código Lyoko, pues para los que les gusten Evolution, ahí van a tener todos los episodios, creo que son 26, 9 horas y media, 10 horazas de Evolution, ¡qué locura! Tras esto, pues pasaremos a maratón de Sendokai, etcétera. Aunque si se os ocurre más contenido de Código Lyoko para maratones, me gustaría leeros en los comentarios. También chicos, y no menos importante, os dejo por aquí esta encuesta que ya ha terminado, resultados para el próximo What If. Y nada, la semana que viene seguiremos con Sendokai y empezaremos con Gormiti. Dicho esto, espero que os guste el vídeo de hoy. Si es así, a reventar fuertemente el botón de like, daré vuestras opiniones en los comentarios. Y vamos a ver qué opina esta chica o este chico sobre esta pregunta dentro vídeo. Empezamos chicos por fin con el vídeo. El vídeo está en inglés, he encontrado subtítulos en español, así que vamos a ver qué tal está.
Code Lyoko. It's a French cartoon that is better than Miraculous Ladybug in every conceivable way. I don't make the rules, I just report them. Hello everyone, my name's Ayla and okay, Miraculous does two things better than Code Lyoko. For one, the foreheads, because my goodness, you can place the entire continent of Antarctica on the foreheads of the Code Lyoko characters. And two, the CGI is much better in Miraculous, but that's to be expected since Code Lyoko aired in 2003, and the quality for TV CGI shows wasn't great back then. But aside from those two things, Code Lyoko was a pretty perfect show. Code Lyoko respected its characters, respected dark and heavier topics, had an actually threatening and competent villain, and it had stakes. There's a reason why I'm bringing Miraculous Ladybug into this conversation. I'm not just bashing it just to bash it. Just give me some time to set the scene. First, what's Code Lyoko? Code Lyoko is a
Decir que, claro, lo de las cabezas es que es algo muy obvio. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Que tienen hidrocefalia o algo? O sea, tienen cabezas demasiado grandes los personajes de Código Lyoko. Pero bueno, y luego lo del CGI, totalmente de acuerdo.
Animated show that ran from 2003 to 2007, and it had 4 seasons with 97 episodes. It initially aired on the France 3 channel, and when it was dubbed in English, it aired on Cartoon Network during the Magoozy block. The show was about a group of teenagers, Jeremy, Ulrich, Yumi, and Odd, who, with their artificial intelligence friend Aelita, battle against a malevolent AI known as Xana. Both Xana and Aelita come from a virtual world called Lyoko, which can only be accessed via this supercomputer. Xana uses the power of Lyoko to wreak havoc on the real world, attempting to wipe out humanity. The genius of the teen group, Jeremy, along with Aelita, figure out that it's possible to fight back against Xana by going to Lyoko and helping Aelita to temporarily deactivate Xana. And thus, Ulrich, Yumi, and Odd, with some fancy science pods, are able to virtualize themselves into Lyoko to do just that. They also discover that the supercomputer has the ability to return to the past upon entering the code that temporarily neutralizes Xana. Just as the name suggests, this ability allows them to return to the time before Xana attacked that day, and life will go on as if Xana didn't wreak havoc. This process wipes the memories of anyone who hasn't been scanned by the supercomputer. And we're gonna put a pin on that particular detail.
But Aloe, doesn't that take away any stakes?
Again, we'll get back to that, because spoiler alert, no, it doesn't actually. But anyway, there's also the option to simply shut off the computer, but doing so will destroy Aelita, and they don't want to do that. So the plan is to find a way to bring her to the real world and break her ties with Lyoko. Only then will they be able to turn Xana off. Is it a little selfish to try to save one AI girl by putting the whole world at risk? A tad, yeah. But our heroes seem to think that they have things under control. And also, they're teenagers. still kids, so they aren't the wisest bunch around, good-hearted, but not necessarily the best of judgment. And plus, considering how mysterious the supercomputer even is, who's to say what would even happen if they did try to shut it off? Maybe Santa would be destroyed, or maybe something else would happen. So, you know, they gotta figure. Honestly, the biggest hiccup for me, and many others, was the display of massive foreheads. Seriously.
Tal cual, yo creo que el mayor problema fue lo de las cabezas, es que las cabezas eran demasiado grandes. Aún así me está gustando mucho el resumen de lo que es la historia de Código Lyoko, me está gustando muchísimo, no lo está haciendo nada mal.
The character designer's thinking. I get it, this is their art style, so to each their own, but I can't help but think how much more amazing the show would have been if I couldn't signal the aliens in space with their foreheads. Again, this style is charming, so I can't say I dislike it, though you could chalk that up to nostalgia a bit. But at the very least, you can't say that Code Lyoko didn't have its own unique look. A lot of shows share stylistic elements, but Code Lyoko had its own unmistakable identity that you couldn't help but respect.
Las cabezas, claro.
They existed. Okay, I'm just joking. They're pretty cool. Not the most complex characters out there, but the main characters are all likable and have their own distinct personalities, flaws, and interests. You come to really care about them and feel the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially with all of the trauma they come to experience. Although the show is semi-episodic and very Monster of the Week-like, similarly to Miraculous and even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, it has plot-relevant episodes. So quite a few episodes you can watch in any order, but some of them you definitely need context and viewing in the correct sequence. And so, because of the mostly episodic nature of the show, and because it is in fact a show made for kids, you don't always get the sense that these kids are traumatized. Like, they brush off near-death experiences pretty easily, but when the writers had the chance, they still treated heavy topics as best as they could, even within their limitations, and still did their very best to show as time went on.
Tal cual, hay algunos temas que es que no sé cómo los niños aceptaron esos traumas así de la nada. Es que hay algunos episodios, por ejemplo, ya solo hablando del tema de las muertes que intenta conseguir Sana con los guerreros Lyoko. Hay algunas cosas, por ejemplo, lo del accidente bueno, el posible accidente en la central nuclear con el autocar de la escuela. O sea, todo eso que si tal y explota, o lo del el satélite, cualquier tipo de muerte, es que esto es increíble. No sé, yo no me quedé traumatizado, pero hay escenas que nunca se van a olvidar.
That these kids are experienced and have seen and been through some stuff. And if memory serves me right, as the show progressed, the plot-relevant episodes became more frequent, at which case, you really did need to tune in more often to get the full story. In any case, this show is awesome, and I'd like to super emphasize how amazing the theme song for this show is. Seriously. Whether you listen to the song in French or English, both versions go so hard.
¿Y el español?
It's called A World Without Danger, and it is honestly one of the best theme songs for a show I have ever heard. Code Lyoko is such an awesome show that it deserves such a memorable and epic theme. I implore you to go check it out if you haven't. In fact, I'll make things easy for you and put a link to the song in the description, so now you don't have an excuse to not listen to it. Something I deliberately failed to mention earlier was that Code Lyoko has a sequel series in 2013 called Code Lyoko Evolution, and, well, it's kind of, what's the word? Oh yeah.
A ver, atentos,
1 year and 126 episode season, it suffered from the same injustice as the final season of Once Upon a Time, in that it was incredibly unnecessary and only hurt the show. Seriously, the only good thing about the last season of Once Upon a Time is good Queen Regina and the Captain Swan baby. Man, that season was disappointing. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Code Lyoko Evolution. You see, dear viewers, Code Lyoko proper had an ending. I'm about to provide some very light and sort of vague spoilers, but if it really bothers you and you don't want to hear it, skip to this timestamp. Okay, alright.
Empezamos con Ladybug.
So, yes, Miraculous and Code Lyoko have some superficial similarities, as well as some things that are related to one another.
Va a hablar un poco de similitudes. Si aún no te has visto este pedazo de vídeo, lo vais a tener en la pestaña de información, en el que hice un vídeo en colaboración con Okaru Nightfall, que me ayudó con el guión y demás, hablando de todas las similitudes que hay entre Código Lyoko y Ladybug. Tiene ya más de 4.000 visitas, fue creo que del año pasado, de hace 2 años, merece mucho la pena verlo.
Them both being French shows is one thing, and both shows also take place in France, as well as both shows focusing on teens who save the world. But Thomas Astruc actually worked on Code Lyoko. Not on the story or anything. Like, let me make this clear, he did not touch the writing for this show. but he was a storyboard artist for the first season. And while his time on the production was limited, he, or someone on the Miraculous Ladybug team, had some sort of influence from Code Lyoko, because look at this. Look at it.
Hombre, es que eso...
Like, not exact, but come on.
Es que, vamos, si no es una similitud de eso...
This was clearly just a respectful homage to Code Lyoko, and that's cool, that's fine, no worries. I just find it funny how Miraculous, one of the most controversial shows regarding the quality of its writing, usually skewing in a more negative light, referenced Code Lyoko, and arguably an almost unanimously agreed upon much better show.
But Aloe, these are two different shows with different premises. They really shouldn't be compared like that. Nor was there any intention on either of the creators to pit them against each other. There's probably no ill will whatsoever. Besides, there are people out there who enjoy Miraculous more than Code Lyoko. Isn't there a chance that what you're saying might pointlessly start arguments between the people of these fandoms?
Okay, one, I'm not trying to start some big fandom war or anything. Besides, I'm not the babysitter of the people in the comments. I can trust them to keep their cool regardless of what side they're on. And even if they don't keep their cool, I can't control what they do. And two, these are all obviously my opinions. Each and every video I make is full of my opinions. I'm not saying my opinions are fact or that you should blindly follow what I say, but I say what I feel, and I figure that's why most of you are here. So, having said that, I made a video last year about
sobre eso opino lo mismo.
The power.
Yo no soy dueño de lo que digáis en los comentarios. Yo confío en vosotros.
Ridiculous and makes no sense in the context and theme of the show. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why, but I know one of my problems with that power is that there are no real stakes involved because of it. You can say that for Ladybug's powers in general, since the Ladybug Miraculous has the power to create literally anything and is only limited by the user. But Miraculous Ladybug in itself has the power to fix everything that gets messed up by the Butterfly and Peacock Miraculouses, for some reason. Now, I mentioned earlier that Code Lyoko has a similar mechanic, Return to the Past, where, once again, our heroes have the ability to turn back time after Xana is defeated for the episode. Turning back time fixes all of the damage that Xana created in the real world. How is this any different from the Miraculous Ladybug power? One word: stakes. With the help of some friends on Discord, This Day is Going to Be Perfect, Lady in Red 380, and Alice, I have found that there is evidence that not only can Miraculous Ladybug fix everything, but it also brings people back from the dead. Contrary to what the show might say, there is heavy evidence that people have died in Akuma and Sentamonster attacks and were brought back once Miraculous Ladybug was used. Even if you don't account for the general widespread destruction of monsters in which civilians absolutely get crushed, burned to death / blown up, fall to their doom, etc., you have the wacky and destructive powers of the monsters themselves, which turn people into inanimate objects, get frozen solid, which is fatal, or having to deal with unlivable conditions, such as an erupting volcano. Things will always be okay in that no one is actually going to really get hurt.
But Aloe, Gabriel won at the end of Season 5. From what we understand of the lore, quite literally the whole universe was wiped out, and thus billions or even trillions of people and entities died because of the wish he made. So, those are pretty big stakes. I don't think Miraculous Ladybug can fix that.
Well, yeah, sure, but I think this is the one and only exception because Gimme's powers override Tiki's powers. Reality trumps creation, so that makes sense for Miraculous Ladybug not to be able to undo that in particular. Regardless, as horrific of a situation as that is, everyone was replaced with perfect copies of themselves, and the death of the old versions will never, ever, 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 ever be acknowledged. And thus, these new versions are just basically the old versions without much consequence other than Gabriel being gone. Tangent aside, Miraculous Ladybug, when used, can fix everything and bring people back from the dead. Return to the Past, however, cannot. Like, it absolutely cannot. If someone dies, they will not be brought back to life, even if you go back to before their death. This is why Code Lyoko has such intense suspense because you never know if you're about to lose a character. Also, if a character falls in the bottomless abyss that surrounds Lyoko, they die. Ordinarily, if one of our heroes gets damaged in Lyoko, they would simply devirtualize and show back up in the real world, a bit bruised and exhausted, but alive. But if they fall into that bottomless abyss, that will kill them permanently. Also, unlike Miraculous Ladybug, that can seemingly be spammed once you've grown up, or at the very least, used without consequence, Return to the Past has the consequence of making Xana stronger each time it's used. At some point, the heroes have to try to deal with Xana without relying on returning to the past, in order to have a better chance at defeating it. And in doing so, the stakes are raised even higher because whatever damage Xana causes is permanent. You get the sense that every move that both the good guys and bad guys make matters, and that's super important to a show like this. And it should matter in a show like Miraculous too. In Code Lyoko, I feel like everyone is in danger. In Miraculous, as long as the Ladybug Miraculous stays with the good guys, no one is. And yes, I know part of the point of Miraculous Ladybug, the show, is to make sure the bad guy is prevented from getting this item that fixes everything, and thus the stakes are technically high, because if he gets it, it's all over. But what does that say for the rest of the show? Unless we know for a fact that the Ladybug Miraculous is in actual danger of getting taken by the bad guy, there aren't any stakes. And even if it did get taken, both the Black Cat Miraculous and the Ladybug Miraculouses need to be stolen for any real threat to occur, which allows the good guys enough wiggle room to get one back if they lose the other. But in actuality, the question of whether or not the stakes are legitimately high is actually more complex than that, due to the main character being a creator's pet, and the main villain being an incompetent idiot. So, you really don't feel that sense of urgency. Whereas in Code Lyoko, the main characters get damaged and tossed around often, and Xana is extremely deadly and capable. Like, considering it's a kids show, you're fairly confident that Xana won't win in the end, but boy do they still make you question that at times. The idea of comparing Return to the Past and Miraculous Ladybug and how they deal with stakes was initially the whole point of this video, but I couldn't help but talk about Code Lyoko as a whole and why I respect it more than Miraculous. Vamos a sacar una cosa en clara, chicos. La creadora del vídeo le gusta muchísimo más Código Lyoko que Ladybug. La verdad, me ha encantado el vídeo. He disfrutado mucho, lo que sobre todo nos ha dejado ver la diferencia de en Código Lyoko Xana es mortal, Xana si mata a alguien o si le hace daños graves a alguien, eso va a quedar ahí, no va a ser un reinicio. A ver, sí, lo de la vuelta al pasado, pues bueno, pero la vuelta al pasado no trae a nadie a la vida, así ha muerto. Lo único que hace es volver a como estaba antes, sin traer muertos a la vida y hacer a Xana más fuerte. Pero es que Ladybug, es verdad eso, que si, yo que sé, que la gente que muere aplastada por coches o le pasa algo y muere, de repente vuelven a la vida o algo así, ¿eso es real? No me he visto como tal Ladybug, algunos episodios sueltos, pero no me he hecho nunca una maratón. Pero vamos, que si todo eso es cierto, o sea, qué locura. Eso es una diferencia muy importante. A vosotros, chicos, ¿qué os pareció Ladybug? ¿Alguno ha visto esta serie? ¿Qué os ha parecido el vídeo? La verdad es que yo lo he disfrutado mucho. Me ha gustado cómo ha puesto los puntos sobre las IES. ¿Es Código Lyoko mejor que Ladybug? Ella ya nos ha respondido con un sí. Yo también. Aunque aún así, tengo que hacerme una maratón un día de estos de Ladybug. En especial las 2 primeras temporadas. Nos vemos en el siguiente vídeo, TikTok y directo. Chao, chicos.
Told me that I was no good at all, such a waster, and suddenly I was